morning, everyone. I hope that this finds you well. We are excited to jump in tonight and just chat with you and share a little wisdom around what we have learnt and how to navigate these times with your children. Because for some of you right now, being in confined spaces with your family for long periods of time, it definitely comes with challenge, but also there's an emotional, challenge for people just trying to navigate how they're feeling through all of this as well. So before we kind of dive into it, I know some people are already jumping on live. If you could just pop into the comments that you can hear us okay, that would be super. And if you've got kids, I'd love you to pop in the comments. How many kids do you have? What are their ages? And how are you going right now with this? Because we're really looking to pour into you as much as possible, just to be able to help you through this time.
I'm going to call you on something.
Oh.
Because you said you're excited.
Okay, I'm
excited. And the truth is, if you look at us, I coined this term called exhausted.
Yes.
And it's exhausted and exhilarated at the same time. I think we're probably more exhausted.
Yes.
Because, we've been doing so much at the moment, and by choice, we have our children at home all the time. And we've chosen to homeschool them. And it has its benefits, and it also has its inherent challenges. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but also just how children need to feel understood, they need to feel heard, and they need to feel safe.
And this applies to any time in the world, whether this is right now or this is in 3 years from now when something else is going on. I think sometimes it's really easy for us to be internalizing the challenge that we have going on and the frustration, and maybe we're watching something and we're frustrated by what social media or that politician or whatever's saying, or our boss or whatever, and we've got our own internal challenge, and then our children might ask us for something or just be like poking, at their brother or sister or whatever. And often, if we aren't in a resourceful state ourselves, we can snap really quickly at little things because we aren't really feeling and we don't have the capacity sometimes to really feel where our kids are at. I don't know if anyone can relate, or if you felt like that at all during these last kind of 4 or 5 months. But it's something that, I know we certainly have, and speaking to some of the other families that we're coaching, it's kind of like it's happening. It's a real thing, whether you are in confined spaces or whether it's just, day to day.
So there's a saying, all communication is either a cry for love or a cry for help. And I know when we are in a not so resourceful state, because we've just watched something that has made us aware of something that's really dark on the planet, or there's been another announcement, or we see some person in perceived authority make another silly decision. And children are very sensitive to energy. They're very sensitive to body language. And they're picking up on everything. I think it's so sad personally that children who I think should just be growing, playing, interacting, communicating, doing what they love, have in their verbiage right now COVID and masks and lockdowns and all of this. And so it can be a very slippery slope, because you want to create the space where they can come to you and ask questions and have that very open discussion around it. And that would be the first thing that I would say is, if you can create a space where your children can come and talk to you about anything, all right? And the way that you do that is that you've got to go first. And so the way that you bridge the gap that is perceived, going, oh, you're old, you're my parents, is sharing stories about what life was like when you grew up. Who were your friends? What were the adversities that you overcame? What are the challenges? When did you get bullied? When were things happening around you where there wasn't certainty for you? Because then any of the emotions that are going on inside that little soul makes them not feel like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, dad or mum, they were just like me.
Or they've had times where they've felt lonely as well. Maybe it was a different circumstance, but it's still the same emotions. And the more times you can be real and vulnerable to a sense, where I think, there's many things we are not telling our kids, but we also tell them if we're feeling a little bit sad, or, we're disappointed in some of the decisions that some of the leaders around, the world are making. And so they get a sense of that. And so we share that with them, and it creates a space where they go, oh, mum and dad don't feel bad for sharing how they feel. They're not bottling it up. And that means that I don't have to either.
Because you think about when we're young, and if we have something happen to us before, we hurt ourselves, and then typically where our reaction is something external is going to fix it. It's a Band-Aid, it's a lollipop, it's a special food. It might be, here I have the Panadol, whatever it might be, something external. And so when we go on in life and we start hitting teens and hormones and all of this starts coming into our lives, if we haven't had abilities, processes to take those emotions that are totally natural, and a way to process them, talk about them, save space, and they're in here, and we think the way that we deal with it is something external, okay? Lashing out, doing something, feeling pain. So it's so important right now. If you have family, if you have parenting high on your values, that we're super aware through this time.
Yeah.
Because our children are picking up on everything. And so emotions, it's natural that emotions come in. As something happens, we go through an emotion. So our emotions are like our radar to go, are we on our true north? And so it's okay for emotions to come in. It's totally normal, it's totally natural, because we're a spiritual being having a physical expression. So it's the connection of the two. If we resist because we've been taught we've got to be happy, this whole positive psychology development to go, I'm happy now, things are really good, oh, awesome, oh, amazing, instead of going, no, I feel like crap, or I'm really sad, or I'm disappointed, and you allow yourself the space to have the feeling. And because like a pendulum, the emotion will come in and it will swing. And if you just let the pendulum swing through, and you don't go and hold on to the pendulum, all right? You don't get in it, you become the observer, because you are not your emotion. I feel sad, not I am sad.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm depressed. I feel depressed. I have depressed emotions today. So you separate yourself from it, because you are not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. You can be the observer through that. And so if you can just watch the pendulum swing, you can feel it. But naturally, it's going to come into that place where it will settle.
And if you have older children, I think, depending on the relationship you already have, moving into this time, if you've got that ability to get in the car one-on-one with them and just go for a drive, go run some errands, just get some stuff done and ticked off the list, that time where you're both kind of looking forward, you can have those conversations where it's not like an interrogation, like, so how are you feeling? What's going on? And it just, it's a way to be able just to kind of break down the walls and really kind of feel where your kids are at. And so it's really interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other week around a man who was coaching in a mastermind, and he was giving all of this feedback about how to be an amazing leader and how to create rapport and really connect with your team or your audience or whoever you're influencing. And later that night, he went home and he had a dinner. He had some of his work colleagues and he had his children at the dinner table. And so they were sitting at the dinner table, and his 14-ish-year-old daughter, they got takeaway, and she was eating some soup or drinking some soup. And she had this total meltdown, and because there was a bug in her soup, and she overreacted and she was crying, oh my God, I'm not going to eat that, and this is disgusting. And so there was different reactions that happened at the table. Some of the work colleagues kind of had a bit of a chuckle. Some were like, oh, what's wrong with her? And the dad was like, can't you see, like, you should be so grateful for having a roof under your head, like the fact that we've got dinner on our table tonight. And in his mind, he just had a huge business deal kind of teetering on the edge of it happening or not. That was his reality of the day. And so he just kind of blew up at her, and then she was like, left the table really upset, went to her room. The next day, he's there teaching the same group of people around leadership and creating rapport and really feeling who you're working with. And he had just this moment of like, oh my gosh. And he cut that meeting short and drove straight home. And I got teary just listening to this, because he realized in that moment at the table with his daughter, he was not feeling and sensing where he was at. He was in his own frustrations. And, sometimes as, an adult with all the things that we've got, like bills to pay and, places to be and all of these moving parts in our world, we forget to kind of put ourselves in our children's shoes. And so he went home and he asked for forgiveness. He said, it's one of the hardest things I've had to do is ask for my children's forgiveness. And I apologized and I shared with her, I'm so sorry. I didn't see what was going on in her little bubble. And in her little bubble, she's upset because she can't see her friends right now. She's got uncertainty because normally she loves school and she, goes every day and she loves and thrives in that environment. And she doesn't, she's picking up on her dad's energy, all these things, all these moving parts, but he didn't take the time to stop and feel where she was at. And I just thought it was so beautiful and powerful, and just a really great reminder for us, regardless of how old our children are, or if you're an auntie or a step parent, just to check in, because we never know what's going on in their little world. We had an example one night, our daughter just totally went off the Richter scale, over emotional, like no reason at all. And it was like, Zara, get it together. What is going on? And it didn't matter if we cuddled her or like, there was nothing that we could do that was actually going to settle her. And I'm like, I feel like I'm about to tap out. Like, I'm probably going to do something that I'm going to regret in a second. She was so unreasonable. Anyway, we looked at the moon and I said to her, honey, what's going on? This is not you. I don't understand what's happening. And she looked up at the moon, and when she looks at the moon, she feels like she can see a rabbit on the moon. And we had a pet rabbit we had many pet rabbits that got eaten by snakes. Anyway, she was missing Lily, our rabbit, and she saw the moon, and it was a full moon. She saw the moon and she thought about Lily, and then she thought about everything that she missed about her and how sad she was and how much she loved her, and all she wanted to do was snuggle her. And that was the reason for her emotions that she was having at that time. And when we finally got to talk about it, and she literally deflated like a balloon. It was just like, I feel heard now. Okay, I get it. I got my emotions out. She had no idea what was going on either inside her little body. And so just being able to ask a few questions, take a step back, going, hang on a second. This is not who they are. This is not normal. Like, something's up. And how can I be curious and not get caught up in the emotion, to be able to empathize and put myself in their shoes and figure out what's going on in their world.
Indeed. I think people's emotions are escalating right now, and rightly so. What can happen is people get emotional, worried, fearful, whatever, and if they've had any kind of personal or spiritual growth, then they'll catch themselves and they'll be angry because they were angry.
I should know better.
And then they're one step further and going, wow, I know better than that. And now they're worried, is something wrong with me? And now I'm angry that I'm worried. And so we go on this emotional roller coaster. Instead of just going, there's pressure, there's crazy stuff happening, and it's okay to feel the emotion so long as you have someone to speak to, processes to go through. So again, if you haven't seen the I'm Brave challenge, we did it last week. It was unbelievable. We had over 1,000 people go through that. And just pivotal changes where they're not allowing their emotions to be dictated by what's on their screen, where they're grounding themselves, where they're going through visualization processes. So if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen that, we might be able to put up the link for that. But the whole thing with tonight is this next generation, what is coming through them at the moment and where they're headed. They're looking to us, you know. We are their mentors. We are the people that they are emulating. And so to take a moment and to be conscious of that. And if there's just a few things that I would suggest. One is creating some kind of ritual regularly where you can have some time with them, all right? If it's one-on-one, even better. But the way you spell love for a child is Time. They need that time where they feel, okay, is mummy present? And the phone's off, there's no screens, and being super present with them. And in that, already knowing some of the stories you're going to share. And if you're just going, how you feel, how's school, what's going on? And if you can start by going, I've had a lot of feelings of worry. You know, I've had a lot of feelings of being sad lately. And the reason that is because, you know, there's some leaders who aren't making decisions that I think are going to be in our best interest. And think you need to show them the skill, the art, the process of sharing their emotions. And in a way that I am feeling this, not I am this, and this is why. And so I just wanted to check in. How have you been going with all of this? And the first time, it's like going to the gym. It might be clunky and weird because it's not there. But if you're doing this on a habitual basis, it might be around the dinner table, might be just at the breakfast bar, whatever it is, so that your children can be processing what's going on. Because otherwise, we look at them acting out. And then it's very easy to go, you are bad, you are doing this, why? There's so much going on in the world, why are you adding to it, you know? And then the meanings they start making of that. So the second thing I would say is when something is happening in their behavior, separate the behavior from the person. Because if they've done something, it can be a learning opportunity to go, okay, emotions are rising to the surface, what's going on here? How about you? Any thoughts?
I think just sometimes as well, we have to check in on ourselves. So if we're feeling frustrated in our kids or their behavior, sometimes it's because we actually need to go and deflate, or, you know, not to them, but sometimes it's more of a reflection of where we're at. And they're just mirroring that back to us. And that's definitely something that I've observed in time as well. But I think just if you can empathize and try and put yourself in their shoes, forget about all of the stress and worries that you have on your shoulders and just go, what does life look like as a 4-year-old right now? You know, are they missing their routine? Are they missing their friends? You know, are they excited about something? Are they frustrated about something? How have I been speaking to them? Have I been short? Like, what's different in their world? And just feel it out, because a lot of the time, you know, and when they're little, sometimes, you know, it's really hard because they're not able to communicate their feelings. But if you can feel where they're at, you know, sometimes just taking it easy on yourself. And we go through seasons, just like, you know, in spring, the leaves are starting to blossom and the flowers and everything. That's a season in life, right? Sometimes you're going to go through a season as a parent, and you can't stop that season if you try. Like, we can't stop the leaves falling off the trees in autumn. It's just going to happen. So you are going to go through waves and ups and downs through the journey of parenting. But particularly, if you have children that they, I would say, if I think back to our journey with our kids, we deliberately spent one-on-one time, like just mummy time or just daddy time with one of the children, from like that age 4 onwards. They were like, I've got my date today, and it could be going for a walk in the park, but it's just the two of you, pure connection, no distraction. Or it could be curling up and reading a book. You don't have to go somewhere, but it's just so that they know that they've got that time with you. Because when they don't have it, they'll start to act out in different ways, and it won't always be their ability to tell you, this is how I'm feeling, mum or dad. I'd really like to have some quality time with you. That's not how it works. It's going to be fighting, bickering and all of the other stuff that comes with it, which just adds to the load that's already on your shoulders right now.
Yeah. Now, I agree, Angela, talking about their own contracts. So every human has a set of values, highest through to lowest, most important through to least important. We all have our unique gifts, skills, and talents. And I think Einstein said it best. If a fish judges its worth based on its ability to climb a tree, it will think whole life that it is stupid. And so you take children where they are naturally creative or they're sporty, and then you sit them inside of 4 walls and they have to do this and they have to do that. And so the more that you can acknowledge that little souls, what's most important to them, what are their gifts, what are their skills, and you can help elicit that, help draw out of them and help them feel good about themselves because they're doing what they love. And it's okay to be good at certain things and not at other certain things. When their little hearts are filled up, they'll do anything for you. So again, if you're starting to get cues, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, help them meet their needs first and then watch the different little soul that's going to be in front of you. So this has been some really amazing things that we teach in the Empowered Lifestyle Academy. We do a parenting masterclass in there as part of the 7 laws of living an empowered lifestyle. So, but again, we've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of people reaching out saying, I've seen posts coming up going, my 12-year-old is off the rails. What can I do?
Yeah.
So we were compelled to jump in and grab some of that content and give it to you guys because, parenting is definitely dear to our hearts and just helping that relationship. So that's a few of the snippets of gold from, I think we call it the 5 fundamentals of building deep relationships and raising resilient children. So,
and like you said, Angela, it's definitely a work in progress. Like sometimes I'm like, I got this thing down pat. And then the next day it's like, God.
30 seconds later.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is not how I planned it to be. But I think just be kind to yourself, take it easy, like don't put so much pressure on who you have to be. You've got a lifetime to, to really guide your children. But in those early years, you've got that time where you can really set up some beautiful connections and habits and routines or rituals that you can really sink in, that become a normal thing, so that as your children do get that little bit older, conversation doesn't stop. It's just something that you've always done. And if you haven't had that yet, you can absolutely turn it around really, really quickly as well.
Absolutely. So I think the other thing, last thing, promise on this topic, because we'll go for 4 hours otherwise, is things changed for me when I went, I'm parenting them, to going, this is just another soul, another person who I can learn as much from as I am here to teach. And when it was just, I could be curious about their emotions and what they were there to teach me, and I asked more questions instead of being like this down towards them, the whole game changed. In fact, I had an experience, I won't go into too much detail, but there might have been some plant medicine involved, and I got this very clear message that your son I have sent to you as a gift to teach you about life, because I was pondering all the time on how do I be a better dad? How do I parent him? How do I get him under control? And so that was really cool. So I hope that someone's heard that and that wisdom is passed on. So we mentioned about the academy. The academy is our little pet. It was our golden child, if you will. So everything we've learned over the last 20, 25 years around rights, around wealth creation, around business, around relationships, around
health and vitality,
spiritual awareness, ancient wisdom to heal modern day problems, helping people list their values, their mission, their vision, their purpose. All of that we've put into a membership program where people can dive deep with a community who are really on their game of wanting to be the best version of themselves. So we had that founding member launch about 4 months ago. And so this is it. We're opening it to the public as of Thursday, the 10th.
Yeah.
So that's in a couple of days. And the cart will only be open for 4 days, and we do this twice per year. And so if you want to learn more about it, it's at the Empowered Lifestyle Academy.com. And so the other thing that you will want to do is make sure that you check your emails. If we don't have your email, make sure you share it with us. We'll put the link to do that in the comments. Don't share it in the comments, but you can, I just need an E there, perfect. So at that link, if you share your email, if you haven't yet, probably about half of you have, which is amazing. The other day we did an interview with Nick Patterson, and you might have seen some videos of him in the first phase of the lockdown where all of the police just rocked up at his MMA gym and basically tried to shut things down, arrest him, all of that. And exercising his rights, knowing his rights, standing in his posture, understanding where he draws strength from, basically just kept them at bay and going, no, I'm not doing business with you today. And they had nothing to do, nowhere to go, and they had to leave. And I saw that, I'm like, I want to know, I see what happened, but what was going on in here. So we had a profound interview that went over an hour. And then I hit stop, and then we spoke for another half an hour. But I've taken about 30 minutes of that to send to you guys, because I think if you're not in the academy and you haven't got that, again, I wanted to get some of the key points in that around your rights and the emotional fortitude, having a sense of faith and certainty that I know you will all draw from that. So make sure you grab that. And then the other thing that's happening is on Thursday night here in the academy, we're doing the wellness webinar. And so the wellness webinar, mandates that actually matter and the government will not tell you about. And so it's all of the key things that we can and should be doing to build strength in our body, radiance, vitality, connecting with the earth. And we're definitely going to break down things like masks, break down things like social distancing, break down things like over washing and all of that, and really what's going on with our bacteria, what's going on with our biome, our virome, our environment, our connection to each other, and truly what we can be doing to honor the intelligence that is in our body and has kept us growing and thriving as a race for thousands and thousands of years. So excited to bring that to you, and we'll make that shareable. So if you want to jump on, again, check your email, because there's a link if you want to be face-to-face with us on Zoom and ask questions and be interactive. Otherwise, it will be live streamed right here as well. And then last but not least, tomorrow I have spent a lot of time putting together a resource guide, because the whole purpose of Empowered Lifestyle Revolution is to give you remedies that actually work around police, around vax, around lockdowns, around mainstream media, And so I've given 10 different areas of resources of remedies that work, as well as things like what are the class actions we can be following, what are the petitions we could be signing, who are the members of parliament who we want to be listening to because they're right on the money, where can we get our real news from, because there's a few people and organizations who are just delivering that. So it's just like it's almost like a survival guide of, and it's funny because the idea came from when mainstream media ran an article a few weeks ago, and it was a picture of all of the different people, Pete Evans and us and Tom Barnett and
Nathan Buckley,
Serene,
yeah.
all the people. I'm like, it's amazing. It's like they've put together a directory of where to find the truth.
Yeah.
And so I got this idea to actually go through and create that as a resource for people where they can go, I don't know, a lawyer who's on it. I actually need politicians to follow. I need the news, or I need a remedy with the police stuff that's going on, or the lockdown, or whatever it might be. So I'm going to bring that out, and it's a cool little guide. I'll put it up and we'll go through that tomorrow, just so that I know with Facebook and social media and Messenger and so many things are coming, and actually filtering through what works, what's good, and what's worth watching, and what's like, oh no, we've already used that ruse, that doesn't work. So I'm going to condense that for you so it's all there. So
the cheat sheet.
Cheat sheet,
yeah.
Absolutely. So big night, big week, card opens to the Academy. I can't emphasize enough how brilliant it is in there. The results people are getting, things like remissing chronic diseases that they've struggled with forever, rebuilding deep connections with people that have been lost, forgiveness, being able to have their source document where they know that is the beginning step of them actually exercising their rights and getting that, knowing how to deal with fines, all the sorts of things that we've had our founding members in there kind of as a testing group almost, but are helping give us feedback. So excited for those people who have followed us, given us huge support and love and appreciation that we've got something to give back to you, and we can connect on a weekly basis in there and dive super deep into all these topics. So we'll see you tomorrow night, or tomorrow at some stage. Otherwise, I know Charles, you're already in there. I know
awesome,
Joe, you're already in there. There's a bunch of people
Tanya,
who have joined
Jules,
into this round. So
amazing.
sweet dreams, y'all.
Good night.